Hi, Persian Wells Digital Sockley Productions down here in South Louisiana. This is a Warm Audio WA47. It's a tube microphone. It's an emulation, if you will, of a Neumann U47. And a little history on the Neumann microphone. It was released in 1947, a U47. And it went for a good 20 years before it was replaced, and only because of technology. In 1969 was when they developed the FET47, which was a transformer-based version of the U47. The U47, a tube microphone. This is a tube microphone. And man, you've heard a U47. Anybody who's watching this has heard a U47, any Beatles record, any record from the 50s or the 60s, late 40s, 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s and 80s, and now, you've heard a U47, especially the years of the 50s and the 60s when it was the birth of rock and roll, basically. The Beatles. This is based on a U47 from Neumann. And to describe this microphone briefly, it's a multi-pattern microphone capable of cardioid, figure of 8, and omni. This is set to cardioid, and I'm about 30 inches away. So the whole vibe of this little experiment that I'm doing, this is 30 inches here, is that I want to hear with these microphones, and again, this is based on a U47. A U47 was used like this. You bet your ass on it. It was used like this at some point along the pike. The 50s and the 60s, I've seen lots of photos of, artists in back of mics like this, and, this far away pretty easily. And it seems like they're always up and pointed down. So my little experiment is to hear what this sounds like in a real-world test in a mix about 30 inches away. It's about 65 inches high. And I think that's relative to my height, and I'm 5 feet 8 inches. So it's kind of pointed at my mouth, but slightly above my mouth. All right, the signal chain is the microphone into a Warm Audio Tone Beast, which is an API type circuit. And there are 2 op amps in the Tone Beast. One's a vintage op amp and one's a more modern or clean op amp. I'm using the modern clean op amp. That's going into an RME for the conversion, UFX. And it will be, while this signal chain is pretty clean, there is no compressor. I've got no compressor, and that's by design. You should really need a compressor at this distance. The signal chain here, the outboard signal chain, is very clean. Nothing going on, nothing extraordinary at all, no EQ. But I am going to process it more than a chicken McNugget in post, because I want this to sound like a record. So we'll see what it sounds like, and be back after this.
Several days had gone by since the sergeant passed away. The private asked the nurse to pull the curtains and describe the world that day. Nurse said there was no window, just old curtains against the wall. And that sergeant was legally blind. He couldn't see anything at all. He saw rows of shady oak trees in a busy city park, and children outside playing and laughing until dark. Months of daily stories kept the private entertained, that helped the young man get through all his suffering and his pain.
So my take on this is I like it. I like it like this, 30 inches away. I think there's a lot of clarity there. I could tell in the headphones, which is pre what I've done with the EQ. There was a nice body there. I could hear the mic well. And one thing I did find out is, yes, you should or could, and maybe both, use a compressor in this kind of situation, because this mic is pretty sensitive, and even at this, I've got probably 36, something like that, dB of gain on this microphone. So I think, I would highly recommend this procedure, using this Warm Audio WA47 at a distance. Try that out on some things, and I think you'll find it works for you. Pershing Wells, Digital Sockeye Productions in Houma, Louisiana. Thanks, and make it a great day.